everyone. My name is Haydn Hanna. I'm an educator and space enthusiast. I currently work for a company called Synthesis, which is an online enrichment program that is scaling up the best ideas from SPEX2022's Astronova School. But I'm here speaking with you today as a volunteer for the Mars Society of Canada. And the creative director of its Mars Explorer program. And I'd just like to start out by saying how humbled I am by the average age in the room. Looks like a collection of some of the world's best minds. So it's really humbling to stand in front of you today and speak to you about this exciting program. I'm joined by a couple young gentlemen here. I'm going to give them a proper introduction a little bit later. You might notice that they are slightly younger than the rest of you. Boys, how old? Like 35, 36? How old are you guys? A little older than 35, 36, okay. All right, you look great for your age, I have to say. Anyway, so I'm joined by a couple impressive students, but I'm going to give them a more formal introduction a little bit later. So I'm going to start by going over a little bit about what the Mars Explorer program has accomplished so far. And what we hope to accomplish in the future. Okay, so what is the Mars Explorer program? Let's start with that. The Mars Explorer program is an open source, accessible, and enjoyable learning space to inspire students to explore Mars. That's our mission, that's our goal. At the moment, it mainly consists of some fully planned Mars-themed lessons that are linked to the primary and junior Ontario curriculum. That teachers can use in their classroom. So any sort of primary teacher could come down and download resources off our website. That's what it is right now. But in the future, it's going to be a lot more than that. We have lots of great ideas that we hope to implement in the future. Why this program? Why do we want to do this? So this program is born out of the fact that the first Martians are likely in school right now. It's kind of a fact that's not widely appreciated. And they deserve to know that they could be the first Martians, and they deserve to be excited about it. And so that's really kind of the driving motivation of this program. Second of all, it's just a great time to be a space enthusiast. Space is exciting again. During the Apollo era, there was a massive influx of students into STEM fields. We're beginning to see this again because the human expedition to Mars is just a really exciting thing, and it's beginning to have a similar effect. So let me tell you about some of the projects that are available. So first of all, the projects are fully planned. So one thing we wanted was to make it super easy for teachers to go and download them. Teachers are really busy. I know because I am one. And anytime you can find a resource that's free on the internet, that's really good, you're gonna jump at that. So the one thing we really wanted to make sure was that all the resources and projects were fully planned. So yeah, they can all be downloaded online from the Mars Explorer website. Second of all, we wanted to make sure that the projects were linked to the curriculum in some way. Right now it's linked to the Ontario curriculum. But there's obviously tons of overlap with other provincial curriculums. And again, we just wanted to make it easy for teachers to fulfill their professional duties when delivering these projects. So that was our aim. And then third thing, this is more of a pedagogy thing, but they're interdisciplinary. So the effort to explore space, to colonize Mars, is really something that requires the collective brain power across multiple different subject areas. And so all of these projects are interdisciplinary. They're not broken up into science, English, math, computer science, whatever. It takes into account all the different subjects. And students are really forced to organize their thoughts in a kind of non-compartmentalized way, but in a way that forces them to think across all subject areas. So those are kind of the three driving things across all of these projects. Here is what each project includes. So first, there's a Getting Started guide that outlines the general principles and structure of the project lessons. There are the lesson plans themselves. There's original reading material and resources, and then a slide deck as well. And like I said, all these resources are available on the Mars Explorer program website in both Google and Microsoft formats. So just as an example of one of these projects, I've told you kind of like the general principles that drive the creation of these projects. The first one that was created as an example was called Build a City on Mars. And it's got students to design a city on Mars using Tinkercad, which is a child-friendly 3D modeling software over 7 lessons. So I tested these out on an online platform called OutSchool, and also in some of my own classrooms. They were super popular, they were really fun, and students really loved it. So through these lessons, it wasn't just kind of like a science thing. There was also reading involved, comprehension skills, skimming and scanning, checking for inferences, research skills, those types of things in these lessons. Of course, students would gain some scientific knowledge about Mars. Why is it red? Is it bigger or smaller than Earth? Why are the years longer? Things like that. So there was lots of just scientific knowledge gained. And then finally, they developed some 3D modeling skills as well using Tinkercad. So just highlighting again the kind of interdisciplinary nature of these projects. It wasn't just we're going to read a text on Mars, we're going to build a city. It was kind of like a synthesis of all these different subject areas. Here are a couple examples. Again, these would be students, anywhere between 6 and 10 years old. So again, some work to be done here, but a great start for our next generation. So you can see we talked about food on Mars. There's a little hydroponic system. We talked about habitats and the need to protect ourselves from radiation. This is a geothermal energy plant. So we talked about energy and the different types of energy. And actually, I should shout out Jen here because we used his great article that's available on the Mars Society of Canada website about energy resources and which ones might be used mostly for Mars. My personal favorite, you might be wondering what this big styrofoam cup of brown liquid is. That is hot chocolate because Mars is so cold. So yes, one student had the great idea of putting some hot chocolate on Mars so that we can stay warm. So again, we're going to need that kind of creativity if we're ever going to get there. We did that. We did that lesson. I did it. Students were super engaged. They loved it. But what I kind of found out, and what we found out, was that this was kind of too big of a chunk for a teacher to take on. It was 7 lessons. There was a lot there. It was sort of hard to convince or make the case that a teacher should, do this in the classroom. And so what we set out to do was to set out and do a smaller chunk of lessons. So what's something that we could do in half an hour? Super exciting. That's a low commitment level for the teacher, and then if they like it, then they can go on to the Build a City on Mars stuff and things like that. And what we came up with was something called the Martian Garden project. So there is a nonprofit organization in the United States called the Martian Garden, where you can actually buy simulated Martian soil. And we decided that we were going to try and figure out what grows on Mars and whether it's possible to grow food on Mars. Something quickly that we can do in half an hour to an hour and run the experiment is something that kind of stays in your brain over time, because even though the initial lesson was only an hour, it's something that stays in your classroom for a long time. So over 5 weeks, you're able to kind of look at it and keep it in your head. And so we went with this idea. And so we worked with a school called Pineview Public School to run this Martian Garden experiment, where students tested different combinations of seeds and environmental conditions to see if food could be grown on Mars. So the question was, can we grow food? If we're going to go to Mars, we need to be able to grow food. And so after research, we found a pilot school, Pineview Public School, and now I'm finally going to give Gabe and Hartley the introductions that they deserve. So these 2 students here were part of this initial pilot lesson and program. They're both Pineview Panthers. So we have Gabe here on the left. His favorite planets are Saturn and Mars. He enjoys playing video games, or just games in his free time. I guess board games or video games? Yeah, cool. And then we have Hartley. Hartley likes illustrating and writing his own books. He records these on YouTube for the residents of the local long-term care facility, and his favorite planet is, of course, Mars. So I'm going to pass it over to you two, because Gabe and Hartley are going to share a little bit about how the experiment went, what their findings were, and their conclusions. So boys, over to you guys, and I'm going to be quiet now.
Thank you, Haydn. Thank you, Haydn.
So we hosted a project to see if you can grow plants on Mars. We had 5 groups, each with around 5 people. So yeah, we had 5 groups, and we're seeing if you could grow food/plants on Mars. Group 1 was growing lettuce, grown in coarse Martian soil, simulated mixed with fine Martian soil simulant. Group 2 had the microgreens, grown in coarse Martian soil simulant. Group 3 used basil, and theirs did not work out that well. Grown in coarse Martian soil simulated mixed with fine Martian soil simulant. Group 4 also used basil, which also did not work well. Grown in coarse Martian soil simulant mixed with fine Martian soil simulant. And then group 5, me and Gabe were each in group 5, and we grew spinach, grown in coarse Martian soil simulant mixed with fine Martian soil simulant.
Well, with group 5, so at the start ours was doing really good, but we started to overwatered it, and so it started to kind of die down. So.
Maybe next slide.
Yep. So it depends on the scenarios you can grow food on Mars or plants, and you would need like the certain conditions with the certain soils, because like with coarse soil, it's mostly like rocks and stuff like that, which is mostly on Mars. So it's hard for the roots and stuff to grip on properly and get stuck. But in the right scenarios, you can. And also in the soil, there are certain toxins that make it harder. So if we can like get rid of the toxins from the soil, make a greenhouse, we can 100% plant certain foods on Mars.
Awesome. Do you want to talk a little bit about the water too, and how you watered them?
Oh.
Because there was also some toxins there, right?
Yeah. So for like all of our plants, we used a simple like hydroponic plant food for the plants. So you also need lots of nutrients and stuff that way.
Awesome. Thanks, Gabe and Hartley. I don't know if we need to. Awesome, yeah. So I think one of the benefits of this kind of like experiment was that first students, especially younger students, get some experience with the scientific methods and how it works. They also get some experience, especially in this case, with the ups and downs of conducting experiments, right? Some of our experiments worked, some of them didn't, right? So what can we learn from that? What can we rearrange for the next time? What kind of like recommendations could we give to the scientists that come after to rearrange the rearrange the experiment? So yeah, just it was a lot of fun, and I also should share now that you know these two drove here 3 hours today, and I should mention that Lisa and Devin are in the crowd, which are Gabe's parents. So just want to emphasize that like the human effort to explore space, you know, can sometimes come down really to whether you're willing to make a 3-hour drive or not. So it takes everyone's kind of like dedication and commitment, even if you're not explicitly in kind of the space exploration community. So I just wanted to shout out Lisa and Devin. Okay, so what's coming up next? That's what we've done. What are we doing next? We have lots of ambitious plans. First or our next kind of like thing on the radar is something we are calling the Mars Explorer Mobile Education Station. And again, I would like to shout out Jen at the back for that great name, because the short form acronym is called MEMS. So, what is it? A mobile trailer that can visit schools across the country. That's what we're aiming for. What is it?
For the record, it was a joke.
Well, yeah, it's a joke. You need to preface that because I don't have a great sense of humor. So, yeah, cool. So what does it look like? We don't know yet, to be honest. But here's a couple renders that could turn out to look like. One thing we know is that we like the idea of like solar. We love the idea of having some sort of VR, augmented reality type thing in it. That's to the right. We love the idea of more specific, like hydroponic, kind of like food growth station. Spacesuits are a must. The Mars Society of Canada also has a member named Asta, who is big into learning about origami habitats, and so we hope to leverage that kind of like expertise in this design as well. So yeah, these are just initial designs. We don't really know what the final result will look like. We're probably going to move more towards sort of like a modular design, and maybe have some like habitat features as well, like a a sleeping station or a toilet, or make it more into a Mars habitat. All we do know is that it's going to be super cool. And that we know it's going to be mobile. So other than that's really where we're at that project. So it's something that we're kind of in the developing, marketing, fundraising stage of. Beyond that, we do have kind of like a vision beyond that as well. So one can imagine student competitions where Build a City on Mars. The Build a City on Mars project is actually a competition where schools can like enter their designs, enter their presentations, and gain some clout for their school. Another thing is like virtual after school clubs. Again, these are virtual. That word was added in because we're kind of in the middle of, or this was written in the middle of a COVID pandemic. But one can imagine virtual and in-person clubs. Rocket launch clubs, right whenever there's an important launch going on, get together, viewing party, Martian Garden clubs over a long period of time as well, or podcasts. So I have this like vision in my head of student-hosted kind of Mars-themed podcasts. Just giving them an opportunity to talk with people who are experts in their field, and get other students across Canada and the world excited. Finally, we do have a website. Like I said, the Mars Explorer program is still quite a young program. We're still trying to find grant money. We're still running our fundraising, but we have started and doing some interesting, fun stuff. So we do have a website. You can find it at the Mars Society of Canada website, and then up at the top in the navigation bar, there's the Mars Explorer program there. You can find out. You can download all the resources we have, all the projects. We'll be adding more and more stuff from Pineview, I'm sure, to the website over time. So definitely feel free to check it out, because there's lots of cool stuff there, and also you'll be able to find out kind of like what we're doing next. So on behalf of the Mars Society of Canada and myself, I'd just like to thank everyone for listening to this presentation. If you would like to reach out, if you have questions, comments, want to get involved, anything like that, you can email marsexplorer@marssociety.ca. You can follow the Mars Society of Canada on Twitter at Canada_Mars, or you can reach out to me. My Twitter is Hanna Haydn, or I'm on LinkedIn too, Haydn Hanna. So yeah, that is the Mars Explorer program. I'm happy to take questions if you'd like. But other than that, thanks for listening to our presentation and giving these two students such a great opportunity to come meet with a group of scientists. So that's super exciting for us.
So this will be a little bit of a long one. So first of all, I'd like to say it's so nice to see a program like this that's encouraging and accelerating interest in space research, really, because that is one of, if not the most important things for accelerating development of people's, like, of us in space. Seeing these projects is just really cool, and it's stuff that I would personally want to do a lot as a kid. Second part of this, the four of us sitting here today, and indeed a lot of other people attending the conference today represent student societies from post-secondary schools, universities all over the country. And a big focus for our team, at least, We Built Spacecraft, is to help post-secondary students grow their knowledge in space systems by doing projects hands-on. And for our team, one of the core values that we have is personal growth and learning. That being said, one of the biggest challenges that we have is getting people to be able to integrate all of their knowledge together in a very big interdisciplinary project. So much like what you were trying to do. And we've had a lot of sort of difficulties trying to get this knowledge on board because everyone is putting a lot of small pieces together. So in the process of you developing the Mars Explorer program, did you run into any issues trying to get highly interdisciplinary integrated knowledge of the curriculum built into these projects and getting people to work with these?
So I think the project is a bit too young for me to answer that question fully. I mean, the Ontario curriculum specifically is very keen on interdisciplinary studies, and then there's also quite a big literature on project-based learning as well, PBL. And so the answer is because the Mars Explorer program is still quite small, and I'm one of the only educators on it right now, because I have a commitment to interdisciplinary study, it hasn't really been a challenge yet to like pull in lots of different specialist people. I do anticipate that that could be a challenge in the future though. You know, everyone kind of like wants to create, this is actually a problem broadly with education, is that we want to create students that are like us. And so, yeah, I do anticipate that being a problem, even though it hasn't kind of like reared its ugly head yet. Yeah. Was that, sorry, that was the only question?
That was the only part.
Okay, awesome. Yep.
Are we allowed to ask the
Of course, yeah. Yeah.
Cool. What do you guys want to be when you grow up?
Honestly, well, right now, kind of, well, my dad, he is a electrician, so I'm thinking when I turn 12, I want to kind of like him to more teach me, and when I turn 14, I want to kind of be an apprentice for him. And then more long term, if that doesn't work out too well, I'm thinking about either becoming more of an architect or getting into like space and all that stuff.
For me, I'd like to be an author and illustrator when I grow up and write books.
I just have to say at this point, these two have their lives together way more than I did at this point, so it's really impressive. I was like, I don't know, what do I want for dinner at your age? That's like my main concern, so yeah. Yeah. So, yep, anything else? Any other questions? Cool, awesome. Well, like I said, you know where to reach us if anything pops into mind. Thanks so much for listening. And yeah, really, really excited about this program, and I hope you are too.